Beatrice AZ on the open forum. I believe we have some persons that have signed up. If you want to go ahead and begin with that.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Valdez and board members. We have several of our community members and staff members sign up for public comment. So I'm going to start by reading the statement before I allow each one of them to speak. The next item on the agenda is public comment. The public comment portion of our meeting is available to members of the public who wish to address an agenda item to be considered by the boards on tonight's agenda. Anyone who wants to speak during public comment must sign in prior to the start of the meeting and list the agenda item they want to discuss. A public speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. The public comment portion of the meeting will allow all speakers who have signed up before the start of the meeting to address the board at this time regarding an item on tonight's agenda. I ask that you not discuss students who are not your own child. Policies DGBA, FNG, and GF are available for specific complaints regarding employee, parent, and community member complaints, respectively. Thank you. And our first speaker is Ms. Raquel Martinez, and she will be discussing item 3, pay system, employee pay increase, and Donna ISD compensation plan. Ms. Martinez? You haven't? I don't know, Ms. Martinez, you may be on mute if you're speaking. I don't see you. Ms. Martinez? Ms. Martinez, Ms. Raquel Martinez? Okay, we're not hearing anything, Ms. Martinez. I guess maybe we can move to the next person, and then if Ms. Martinez can join us, I guess we can go back. The next person who will be speaking about pay system and employee pay increase is Ms. Kristen Keith, one of our great teachers at Donna North.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me, Dr. Aziz?
Yes, Ms. Keith.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. Aziz. Since the pandemic began last year, the federal government has enacted rescue legislation providing unprecedented levels of support for education. Donna TSTA is aware that these funds should be used to advance equity, close opportunity gaps for vulnerable students, support the educator workforce, and protect the health and safety of educators, students, and their families. Therefore, it is a critical time to truly demonstrate with actions and opportunity for engagement how much we really do care for the entire Donna ISD community by ensuring that all stakeholders, including employees, parents, and other community players, are fully permitted to provide input and be a part of the decision-making process of how these funds will be allocated. It is also a good opportunity to continue to nurture and further strengthen the relationships with all stakeholders, which can only benefit our district with the retention of students, which is also so critical to our district. This guidance from the Department of Education focuses on local advocacy, particularly how local ISDs can allocate for resources that not only support student learning, but also students' social, emotional well-being. APR ESSER funds can also be used to provide much needed supports for educators, including improving salary, benefits, and working conditions, which are critical to recruiting and retaining high quality staff. These improvements are crucial to ensuring sufficient staffing for schools. We have always dealt with learning gaps, but even more so now, we will be faced with an even greater challenge for the next few years with most students. Employees have done so much since the pandemic began. For many of us, the demands and expectations set upon us are beyond rigorous, having to go above and beyond to meet student needs that our work hours have gone beyond a schedule of sanity. And it has felt a bit insane where many of our colleagues were forced into retirement or leaving the school district to be able to stay well. We need everyone and even more to take on the many challenges we will be confronted with. Please approve a pay increase and incentives which are meaningful enough to re-energize the employees of Donna ISD. And I also just want to add to that, we do appreciate all the things that you all have done for us, but as always, there's always room for improvement in whatever we do, whether that's the way we work in the classroom and also how we take care of our employees and our students. I left the district for a couple of years and came back because I love working in this district. And coming back has been one of the best things that I have done. And I want to see us continue to retain the phenomenal teachers that we have. And I think we're at a turning point where we really need to do everything and anything we can to show our staff, our teachers, our TAs, our auxiliary personnel, our custodians, everyone from the top to the bottom, how much we appreciate everything that they have done, and to show them how much they mean to us and how much of an integral part of our district they are.
And thank you, Ms. Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next person we have is Ms. Clara Villarreal, and she'll also be discussing compensation plan, and you'll have 3 minutes again, Ms. Villarreal.
Hello, dear school board members and Dr. Saiz. My name is Clara Villarreal, and I am a teacher at Rivas School of the Arts. Recently, some teachers and I met on 2 separate occasions with Superintendent Asai and Dr. Sorolla to discuss a concern regarding stipends for masters in teacher leadership. We discussed a project that we had been involved with, which they were both familiar with, and that we had taken on the challenge of working on our master's degree with the only purpose of being able to become better teachers within our campuses to serve as leaders, guides, and support to our other colleagues, ultimately to positively impact our students. Working on this master's degree has been a key in helping Rivas School of the Arts have a very positive upswing in student outcomes now, and we believe for the future. However, the concern was regarding the fact that this degree was not recognized by the district as a core area stipend. And although we have been doing the work, we were not receiving any additional pay for being able to bring that to the district. The master's stipend was only approved for core area teachers, and that basically eliminated the elementary educators. Tonight, you are considering the compensation plan, and we have committed from Dr. Saiz and Dr. Sorolla that the masters in teacher leadership will now be included in the stipend paid for us. There are currently 7 of us teachers who have this degree. As we all know, in elementary, we need to ensure that we set a strong foundation with our students. And so our work as elementary educators is important and valuable to help our students in their early years and impact their future. Please approve the stipend for Masters in Teacher Leadership for the 21-22 school year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Next, we have, I think, Mr. Leander Escobedo, and he'll be discussing compensation plan as well, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, hello, it's Leandra.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
It's
Mr.
okay, no
Leandar.
problem.
Sorry, Ms.
Thank
Perez.
you.
I got a different
I can't
name
talk.
here.
Yes, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to petition for a reading ELA stipend. I've talked to many of my colleagues across the district that teach this content area, and many of them have expressed that they are very unhappy. Not that they're unhappy, they love their content, but they do find it very unfair that the demands for ELA are tremendous compared to other content areas. And so this, as you know, Texas has introduced a House Bill 3906, which is going to eliminate the 4th grade writing assessment. And what this bill does and how it impacts the ELA is that it is going to eliminate the 4th grade writing and the 7th grade writing. So it is going to merge the reading and writing together, which is going to create much more of a demand on the ELA teachers. As it is, the COVID-19 has extremely widened the reading gap. And so now we're going to have to teach reading and writing simultaneously, which is going to be a huge demand on the ELA department to close both the writing and the reading gap. And so a lot of the teachers that teach reading are really feeling the tremendous pressure. And we just we noticed that in the compensation plan of last year and year after year, that just for teaching the math and just for teaching science, the teacher is given $1,250 for just simply teaching the content. And so we're asking for something to match that, especially because this is such a demanding content and so needed for college readiness. And that's it. I probably less than the 3 minutes, but
No, Ms. Perez, thank you so much. And again, I'm sorry I had a different name here, so I
no,
apologize.
yes,
Sorry
my,
about
my
that.
maiden name is there. Yes.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, next person who signed up to speak is Mr. Daniel Nunez, and he'll be speaking about the payment for the Bernie Laprade Stadium track and track and turf replacement project.
Good afternoon, board members. I'm be talking on the behalf of the turf that's going to be paid or be paying for soon here. I only became aware of the replacement of the turf due to the old turf being sold. With that being said, the turf that we just put in, which was back in 2016, came at a bill of about $1.2 million. I really wonder if it is really necessary for us to replace that turf that's only 5 years old. The company had stated previously that turf, if it was maintained, it would last 15 years, and unmaintained 10 years. We're only 5 years into this turf, and basically only 4 years was it used, because last year I don't think it was used as much as the previous years due to the pandemic. As a taxpayer, I would like to know who made that decision to replace it without the community being aware of it. You all want to go out for a multi-million-dollar bond, and as a member of the community and as a parent, I will not support or vote for this bond that you all will probably eventually be going out for. It bothers me a lot that it's been made aware to us that it's being done for a symbol or to change the model that we used to have before. A little bit ridiculous for something that's costing us over $1 million. So once again, I would ask you board members to really think about what's going on with all these monies that are being utilized, which really can be used elsewhere. I will not support this once again, nor will I support the towers that were a failure and did not work. That's it for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The next person we have is Ms. Raquel Martinez, and she'll be discussing pay system, pay increase, and then ISD compensation plan. Ms. Martinez, can you hear us this time? Ms. Martinez?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ms. Martinez. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes, Ms. Martinez.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Good evening. I have great concerns with the items 3 and 4. I have emailed the superintendent, the HR guy, CFO, conservator, and board members. On Friday, the 4th of June, I encountered the warehouse supervisor, DNHS principal, board president, and a board member at his mother's restaurant. I sent you the photos
Ms. Martinez,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you remember it has to go through the pay system. You're discussing pay system, right?
Yes, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Hold on.
But this conversation has nothing to do with the pay system. That's why I'm telling you.
Just hold on.
Okay.
This should be of great concern to all DISD constituents. Are backroom deals being made to accommodate certain personnel? I venture to say that you are all probably fully aware of statements, rumors in this community. My concern is that the compensation plan.
Ms. Martinez, you need to keep it to the agenda item, ma'am.
My concern is that the compensation plan and the job descriptions are being adjusted to fit certain people. And as with the photos, we know that this person is not at his assigned workplace.
Ma'am, that's not what's listed on the agenda item. You need to keep it to
Why
the
would
agenda
the
item.
district allow this to happen? What is in it for board members? Why are you all changing job descriptions, compensation plans, everything right now? My concern is you're all changing things to fit a narrative. That is a concern. And it's not the first time it's happened. It happens a lot. I give you this, you give me that. This is not right. All of this is being done with impunity. This needs to stop. The only ones getting hurt by your actions are the students. Yes, more money for your quote, for your pet projects, AKA friends, means less money for education. 70 to 80% of our budget is for salaries. This district has been here before. We all know that. Now, That outcome was not a pretty one. I would hate for us to be back to 2012, 2014, whenever it was that all that went down, the people board members were arrested and went to prison. I would hate to be back there, but with everything that is done at this district, it does concern me. For you all to be doing backroom deals?
Ma'am, you're deviating again from the agenda item.
Okay, who's talking? You're not supposed to comment, okay? My concern is that all these backroom deals,
Again, ma'am, you're deviating from the agenda item. Our board policy requires that you speak about agenda items only.
this is an agenda item. You all are doing compensation plans to accommodate people. That is a concern, okay? Because we've already seen all of the comments, okay? That's a concern. Why are you all accommodating certain people and taking other people out of their position just to accommodate somebody else? We had a lawsuit about this.
Ms. Martinez, I'm sorry to
Okay.
cut you off.
That's fine. But remember, we had lawsuits about this before. I don't want to go back there. $1.2 million is a lot of money for this district.
Thank you, Ms.
The
Martinez.
only ones hurt are the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that will conclude our open forum conversation. And now, Dr. Valdez.
Yes, sir. Moving on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Azai's district highlights.
Yeah, well, first of all, good evening, board member again, Dr. Valdez. Thank you for allowing me to highlight a few things that happened at least the past couple of weeks and the past month. I'm going to start first of all by sharing a quick video. I don't know if you know, some of you actually were there. I know Dr. Valdez was there, Mr. Perez was there. We had our golf tournament for scholarships for our students last Friday. And we had a lot of participation from different partners and business, the business community. And we were able to raise over $60,000 for our scholarship. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Angel for leading the work and working very hard to put this event together. I know Mr. Perez also really worked very hard behind the scene to help us with the different things, but all of you as board members and Dr. Valdez for being there and helping us with the event. So I'm going to share a quick video just to highlight the event and obviously again to thank our business partners and also our board members for their support, because this is really good. This will allow us to provide $61,000 scholarships, hopefully to our seniors. And so again, this is money that they didn't have, and now you'll be able to get it through this great event. So let me share the video real quick with you.
First of all, to start off by thanking last year's sponsors. Even though we got started with the tournament, we had to cancel it due to the pandemic. But those sponsors stuck with us and they went ahead and allowed us to keep the donations that they provided us, and that provided scholarships for our seniors last year. So a big thank you went out to them. And this year, I'm so excited because we doubled the number of sponsors from our first golf tournament. So that's wonderful. That tells us that the community is out there supporting all students, not just Donna ISD.
Thank you to all our sponsors for really donating back to our students. As you know, all these funds will go toward scholarships to our students. So we're super excited because we'll be able to give over about $60,000 scholarships or possibly more to our seniors this year. So again, very thankful to our partners for really coming together.
One of the major reasons why a lot of students may not go on to further their education, it's always going to be a monetary issue. We know that that's very well stated everywhere. So I feel that by us working together with all these people that contributed today, all the vendors, everybody that participated, you're bringing in to make this possible for all our students to get a head start. Regardless of the amount that they get, every little bit helps our students get that head start in advancing their educational career.
For me, I am very, very happy for one and excited for a new year, a new coming. And I think as a team, we've come together, the coaches, the people that participated in this event, to make it happen behind the scenes are critical to us making sure that we have those support, outside support and outsourcing for us and resourcing what we need. Again, thank you to everyone that participated. Obviously, it's a great event and I'm happy to be part of it.
I'm hoping that, again, this tradition will continue in Donna, because again, it's for good cause to help our students really with their college tuition, and so they can start a new journey, but also be successful in that journey. So again, thank you to Mr. Angel and the team who helped put this together. A lot of our coaches and staff members assisted, but also to our board members, all of you, in particular, Mr. Perez, for really helping raising the money for the scholarships, Dr. Valdez, and everybody really for really putting this event together and making it very, very successful. So the second thing I want to highlight is really, I don't know if, I think we spoke about this before. We are actually one of the very, very few school districts who were approved to be part of the teacher incentive allotment or program. And this pretty much is just to talk, this is just to put it in a simpler term, is this money who was approved back in the 2019 teachers who, I mean, who can show that they are highly effective teachers. They can earn, on the top of their salaries and stipend, they can earn this bonus, right? This allocation. And in order for any school district to qualify, they have to submit an application to TEA. And also, they have to go to Texas Tech, right? Or I'm sorry, Texas State or Texas, one of the, Dr. Sharola, I think one of the other universities.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, so correct. So, and then they have to review the application, how we go about identifying these highly effective teachers. And then once they give us the stamp of approval, then we can start actually doing the work, right? And also rewarding our teachers for their being highly effective, right? So it's a long process, and I want to commend Dr. Sharola for really working on it and submitting our applications. And so I want to just let you know that we are only one of 4 school districts in the Valley who actually have the opportunity to provide this kind of incentive to their teachers. And this year, so the other 3 were approved last year. We were approved this year. And actually, we will be giving these checks to several of our teachers this year. We started small. We started with 2 campuses only because we wanted to start small and make sure, again, everything goes well and the application gets approved. Our intention is to go district-wide for this coming school year. But this is, again, another opportunity for our teachers to earn extra money. And we needed to take advantage of it. We are one of only 3 or 4 school districts this year in the entire state of Texas who actually was approved. So they're not approving TEA, and Texas Tech are not approving a lot of school districts, again, because the process is very rigorous and they have to really prove it. And so again, thanks to Dr. Sharola and thanks to our board support, we were able actually to have this, and we kick off this program. Dr. Sharola, I don't know if you want to add anything before I share the video.
No, just exactly what you said, sir. It's a great opportunity that's provided by the state of Texas. We began in 2019, 2020, and we're excited to issue the stipends, the first payments here in this month to the 4 designated teachers, so 4 teachers at 3D and Rivas Elementary School. And as Dr. Azay said, our goal is to expand this program district-wide to all 23 of our campuses. And this will go a long way, along with our base compensation system, to help us to recruit and retain the best teachers in the state.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Sorla. So again, we have some teachers who will be getting the check. You're going to see a couple of them today. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting news for our district and for our teachers. So let me just share that quick video with you.
One, two, three. What reptile can change colors on its food? The same reptile is... I really thought about, how did I get here? That was one of the things that was my main thought, you know, when I first heard the news. These past years, I feel like we were almost being prepared, because as I read about the TIA, I know that it has to do with teacher evaluations, and this is something that we were doing in school. You know, we had about 3 or 4 evaluations a year, and those were some of the things that really helped me reflect as an educator and how I can improve. So that was one. And the other one was about the students, and that was another thing that, you know, we've already been doing this for a couple of years as well, where we analyze student data and we think about how do we target every student, right? Not just my SPEDs or my ELLs, but everybody, including GTs, migrants, etc. So those are one of the things that we've been doing. But now I feel like I see a broader picture where not only do I need to target them just because of scores, but also their social, you know, economic status that they're in. So those are some of the things that I took, and I'm still working on them. It's very rewarding to know this, because this is our duty as an educator. So just to know that now you're getting paid for it, that just adds more to that.
Okay, class, so we have been discussing the perimeter of our shapes and geometry, right? Our closed polygons.
I'm winding down my career. I've always been so appreciative of the support of Donna ISD. I've been teaching 27 years, and they've provided all the resources, all the materials that I needed. They gave me a golden opportunity to teach the students that perhaps, you know, they have some issues, and I'm in a situation where I make an immediate impact because they want to graduate. And the STAR is, it's a catalyst to that success. And Donna has given those resources, and they've approved a lot of the teaching strategies that might not have worked in the Donna North High School or Donna High School, but it worked here. And I'm so appreciative of that. They've always supported us. And I hope that what Donna had taught me is carried on to the next generation, the 3 R's. You know, the relationship, the relevancy, and the rigor. I think that's the keys to success.
Yeah, so that's, again, just to highlight a couple of our teachers who are receiving their checks. So again, this check is on the top of their salary, any other incentives, I guess, or any other bonuses that you get from us. This money is actually coming from a different allocation coming from TE on top of everything else. So again, we're very pleased and to be one of the only 4 school districts in the Valley, and really very few also in the state of Texas who can offer this opportunity to their teachers. And like Dr. Sorla was saying, we're going to try to expand on this program to going from 2 campuses to district-wide next year. So hopefully all of our teachers would have the opportunity to earn this money and more, because they could go up to $32,000, by the way. That's it. As far as highlight, again, I want to thank you all for the support. And Dr. Valdez?
Yes, Dr. Azay, before we move on to item number 2, I just want to take a minute to thank you for those highlights, your leadership in our district, has made a lot of these things possible, and we are eternally grateful because I know all of these things are directly positively impacting our employees and ultimately our students. So I thank you for your leadership in those areas.
No, thank you, Dr. Valdez. And I want you to know it takes a village, right? So I want to thank our staff. This is a team effort. Everybody's involved, but also support of our board is so crucial, and we have that, and that's so key. So thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, June LSG monitoring report. We'll be looking at goal 1, GPA 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, superintendent evaluation of goal 1, and next step, superintendent constraint 1, CPM 1.1 report.
Thank you, Dr. Valdez. So let me just try to pull that presentation here quick. And by the way, we'll be discussing goal number 1, and it's around math. So we have with us, obviously, Mr. Watson, who is the expert when it comes to mathematics, and also Mr. Rana. So they'll be chiming in. Please chime in, guys, as we have this conversation with our board members around the math goal. All right. So as I was talking about earlier, the goal 1 is really looking at the 3rd grade, the percentage of 3rd grade students that meet or exceed grade level proficiency on STAR Math, and we want that to increase from 35 to 45% by year 2025. We have 3 GPMs under that goal. The first one is looking at the 2nd grade students and the percentage of them who will actually score meets grade level, and we want that to increase from 12 to 50% by year 2025. GPM 1.2 talks about the percentage of 1st grade students that meets grade level quintile based on the computer adaptive program will increase from 11 to 55 by year 2025. And the last one, GPM 1.3, talks about the percentage of kindergarten students that meet grade level based on the computer adaptive program, and that we want that to increase from 10 to 60% by year 2025. Just a quick recap. Just a quick recap. The STAR, if you can mute everybody, please. Just a quick recap that the STAR test this year, obviously, we had STAR tests. We actually still have students who are testing still online. We have until June 11 for the students who opted to test online to do so. However, it's not mandatory. In other words, we're really trying to kind of encourage and incentivize our parents to send their students so they can test, but it's really mandatory. And as you all know, it's not going to be counted toward any accountability, not for the students, not for the school districts or the campuses. However, we kept promoting our students to come back and get tested. We also using our math adaptive program to measure student progress, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So just going back again to goal number 1, as you can see, our goal for this year, for 2021, is to be at 35%. Last year, we did not have STAR results either, so we are trying to compare to the year before, which is 18-19 data. And you can see here also the goals for each, I'm sorry, the score for each of the goals for each GPMs. Overall goal is again to go to from 35 to 45% by year 2025. And you can see also we're looking at different student groups, like were identified by TEA. And you can see that the different goals for each one of those student groups. For overall goal, for this past quartile 3, we have 5% of all students who actually met. Our goal is 35%, and you can see there is a big work that is waiting all of us, right? To when we all learn about we all talk about the learning loss due to COVID-19, etc. But obviously, we're really working very hard with our committees to address that and plan accordingly. For Hispanic is 5%, 4% for economic disadvantage, English learners 3%, and then for our special education students at 3%. Breaking it down by each GPM, the first one is talking about 2nd grade students, and our goal was to be at 12%. We are actually all students at 5%. 5% for our Hispanic students, the goal was 12%. So again, we still have some work to be done. For GPM 1.2, the goal was 11, or it is 11% for the end of this year. We are at 3% for all students and Hispanic, 3 for ECODISC, EL students at 2, and our special education students at 2%. The goal was 11% for that student group. For kindergarten students, the goal is at 10%. However, our quartile 3 scores were at 3% for all students, 3 for Hispanic, 3% for ECODISC, 2% for EL, and then 6% for special needs students. So obviously, again, we still have, we do understand there is a lot more work to be done, and I'm gonna just allow Mr. Watson to chime in and talk more about next steps, but also remind our board members, when was this test took place, or did you what month was that? And we use Imagine Math for this particular assessment.
Sure, my apologies. I'm not too far from my air conditioner return, so if there's any sound there, I apologize for that. But this is data from January. So we just closed the window for the EOY. We closed it yesterday. I had a sit-down meeting with Imagine Math this morning. They gave us a great presentation. I actually have some slides I would love to share with you all there. And if we don't do it now, we'll certainly do it in September. But something that Mr. Rana has suggested and the adjustments we'll make for next year is we're going to push our MOYs later into the year so that the data is more fresh when we do these presentations. And I can tell you, without giving you the actual numbers, I can give you the actual numbers, but for our GPMs for the kinder, first and second grade, we are basically almost spot on our goal with the EOY data. And so we actually have scored in kinder, first and second grade, we've scored higher than we've ever scored before. And sitting down with Mr. Rana, there are certain things that I would like to do with third and fourth grade that wasn't done this year, simply because we didn't know how STAR was going to play out. We didn't want to put too much pressure on our STAR grade level teachers. But based on the data and based on how things have occurred, some of these things that are here in the superintendent evaluation for the next steps that have been happening, where the monthly reports have gone to teachers on a student by student basis and to the campus leaders, we only did that for kinder through second grade. And if I shared a slide that was shared with us by Matt this morning,
would allow you to share, Mr. Watson. I'm sorry to cut you off. So if you want to share
allow me to share?
Yeah, you should be able to share if you have it up there.
Okay, 1 second, let me switch to that page. Share screen. All right, here we go. All right, so do you all see it might be a portion of the page, but you see it there?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so the top part talks about the number of lessons passed, and that'll be later in Dr. Assayis's presentation on the number of lessons. For example, we had almost 150,000 passed lessons this year. Any other year, we've never broke 100,000 lessons. So we're 50% more passed lessons this year than any other year. But what I really want to focus on, which is what it's at the bottom there, the quantile growth by grade level. The quantile level is just like a Lexile level, and that's how TEA does its reporting for each of the STAR grade levels. And there's a certain quantile level based on the number of questions that a student answers correctly based on the grade level. So if you look at the quantile growth, do you see the column in green there?
Yes.
If you see the quantile growth, you'll notice that it's triple digits for which grade level, which grade levels.
Okay, all the way to second.
Right, and those are the grade levels that those reports were sent out. Just for purposes of explanation, a quantile growth measure of 100 even, is the average nationwide pre-COVID a full year's levels growth. So kinder and first grade, this is the average student in the whole grade level based on those 668 kinder students that assessed, the 853 in first grade that assessed. They've made more than a 2-year growth within this year. The problem is that they didn't start on day one of their grade level. They were already deficient to begin with, but again, we are closing the gaps. And I want to do that same thing with third grade, because if you look at third grade in elementary, that was our smallest growth. They only did roughly a quarter of a year's growth in third grade versus the other grade levels. Now, the wonderful thing about the upcoming year is we're going back to face-to-face. We've increased instructional time, and our strategists have created a plethora of resources that are going to assist with that face-to-face instruction. And then we will have breakout periods where, again, teachers are working in small group with certain students. The other students have their devices. They'll be able to work on Imagine Math at the same time. If you look at the very top where it talks about the number of lessons, we'll have even more students getting more lessons completed, because there won't be any reason for them not to, because they'll have their devices on campus with Wi-Fi, with everything, all the resources they have on campus.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Watson.
If there's any questions about this, I'd be glad to answer them, or if you want to save them to the end of Dr. Issaiz's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. If you can stop sharing
Sure.
so I can go back. Here we go. Thank you. Thank you. So, so it's great news that the report a little bit outdated as far as the data, right? But now it's looking even better than what we anticipated. So let me just go to the next slide. So evidence, obviously, like Mr. Watson was talking about, we use Imagine Math, right? That's our program that you use. So we just want to recognize some of our students and some of our campuses. In grade K through 3, 375 students have already passed 60 plus lessons, meaning they have successfully completed at least a full grade level in Imagine Math, with 28 students having passed 150 plus lessons. So this is pretty much giving you the breakdown for per campus, and you can see the number of students, I guess, in each one of those campuses. So kudos to them for really, and to our teachers really, who are working behind the scene, and our parents who assist them, because a lot of these students also are still doing this kind of work virtually from home. So kudos to all of them for working together, ensuring our students' success. So that's what I have, Dr. Valdez and board members. I don't know if you have any questions.
No, Mr. Watson, I noticed, because that's really good information. I had never looked at it the way you presented that last slide. I really like that.
Thank you.
The data, I think you said it was from January 2021, what you presented. So is there any way you get the end of the year? Because I think we'll probably be into the next new year. Is there any way you can send those 3 slides to the board, just so that we see the end of year?
Sure, absolutely. And again, we're going to do the EOY in September. And then once we present again, our following board goal ones later in the year, the data will be closer, because we're going to do our middle of the year assessments closer to your presentations, so that the data isn't as old.
All right, thank you.
You're absolutely welcome.
Ms. Valdez, I've got one question here, if I may ask. We don't need an answer right now, just to kind of send it for us at a later time. The data you presented from K through 2nd, your quartile growth was in the triple digits. However, when you hit the 3rd through 5th, they significantly went down. I don't know what the rationale is for that, but certainly, is it that these K through 2nd had no previous instruction whatsoever, and then the 3rd, it's just a big difference. They're in the double low digit. So just prepare that something for us so we can see, because again, these particular presentations that our superintendent gives to us is the only information that we as trustees get to see to monitor the progress. And so when you present that data to me, I see it, okay, it's great, K through 2nd, but it's also alarming to see the low double digit in the quantile growth for the 3rd through 5th. Okay?
Yes, sir. Will do.
Any other questions from any other board members?
Mine is not just a question. Mine is just a reference to the timeline. You said it was January, so the data that was being produced and presented today was 3 months?
Yes, it was almost 4 months, actually. The window for to match Lone Star governance, Imagine Math truly only has 3 benchmark windows, but to accommodate Lone Star governance, our middle of the year, the first one that we gave in November, after we collected all that data, we invalidated it. Therefore, then in January, we could give middle of the year again, which thankfully is not the same assessment. It's an adaptive assessment, so it all depends on how students respond. So they'll never see the same assessment again. So the second middle of the year was given in January. And then the end of year was the month of May, and actually just closed, as I said yesterday, And the reason we extended the window a little bit was just because of some weather-related issues and also some tech issues that we had, not in Dawn ISD, but actually with Imagine Math in general.
So I don't know,
Moving
Mr.
forward, we already adjusted our timeline very close to the presentation. So
Yeah.
we'll collect the data when the board goal is ready to be presented.
It's been adjusted, sir, for next year and beyond. That, if to answer your question. Yeah.
And the other question, I know it was just alluded to by Mr. Castillo. Now, the year or third grade level students, I know you mentioned just now that you're going to add that program to their cycle. Why didn't we do it this year?
Actually, every single child in Dawn ISD, all the way from pre-K all the way through high school, has at least one pathway in Imagine Math. It was a matter of how much monitoring and how much follow-up that was applied. So again, the third, fourth, and fifth grade students also had access to Imagine Math. However, there wasn't as much follow-up, or there wasn't as much push on my part. And that decision was made because we didn't know what the state was going to decide on STAR, and we knew our teachers were already struggling with the adjustment to working remotely with their students, and so we didn't want to put so much pressure on them that we didn't know how the results were going to turn out. And unfortunately, they didn't turn out as well as they obviously could have, but we're making that adjustment for next year. And we honestly wish that every single content, every single grade level had a board goal, because it seems like when you add a board goal to it, things that turn around, things improve. And again, I know our campus leaders are doing, and our teachers are doing amazing things, but they definitely listen to what you see on a monthly basis, and they try to make those adjustments. And that's always the first thing that they focus on. Other things, unfortunately, kind of fall to the wayside because, again, there is that focus. If you don't mind me saying that, at least in my opinion.
Mr. Watson, I caught something that you said. So are you telling me then that different campuses and the different grade levels don't have math goals?
No.
Don't have what, ma'am?
They don't have individual math grade goals? Like, for example, my principal at, I don't know, A elementary, they don't have a goal for fifth, for fourth, for third, for second, for first, for kinder?
No.
Oh, they all set their own goals for STAR, et cetera, but these are the board goals and the GPMs that were set for kinder, first, second, and third grade. So third grade, right. This was set by you all as part of.
House Bill 3, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
Are you having trouble hearing me? I'm sorry. I don't
No.
know if my internet.
You're
or-
okay. You're okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am. Mr. Valdez, I can't hear you.
Unmute.
He's asking, can I ask you, sir, Mr. Valdez is asking Mr. Watson if in the ACE program, we also use Imagine Math. That's what his question, right, sir? Yep.
They have been. Again, it's been shared with Mr. Torres for years, and he's been trying to actively promote that as much as possible as well too. It's available to kids 24/7.
Everywhere.
So,
It's online.
can you hear me? Hello?
What is it, sir? The ACE program, so this is our last year for cycle 9. We submitted an application for cycle 11, and we had an interview with TEA, and everything looking very promising. We did not hear yet from them, but I'm very optimistic that we're gonna get approved for it. So you're talking about if we're going to be able to offer that program, we'll probably wouldn't modify a program, sir. That program costs about to run, it's a little over $1 million a year. So we would be prepared to do something. Our staff would be definitely kept in some type of capacity. But as I said, we've submitted an application. I was in the interview with TEA and for cycle 11. And I'm very optimistic that that we're going to get that program renewed for another 5 years, sir. No problem.
Mr. Castillo, do you accept report? Do you accept? Mr. Colonel, do you accept? Mr. Valdez? Mr. Reina? Mr. Roy Reina, I know you're here. Do you accept?
You're muted, sir. If you're talking, we cannot hear you. You're on mute.
Mr. Reina? I know he's here.
Yeah.
Mrs. Watts? And I also accept.
Accept, sir.
Here we go. He said
Sorry.
accept.
I got it. Accept.
Thank you, sir.
My apologies if there was any technical difficulties on my part and if I wasn't able to answer any questions appropriately. Again, sorry about that.
No, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, item number 3, discussion and possible action to approve the pay system and employee pay increase for fiscal year 2021, 2022. Dr. Azzi.
Well, again, thank you, Dr. Valdez and board members. And we have a very exciting news that we want to share with all our staff. And obviously, we cannot do it without the support of our board members. So thank you, board members, for your support. But we're here to propose, and I have with me also on Zoom, Ms. Cancino, our CFO. And so I'm sure she'll be, I think I lost, can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you, sir.
But I wanted to be able to share also.
I can also share if you need me to, sir. I can also share it.
1 second.
We can see your screen, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So here's what we propose. And so again, it's very exciting news. We are proposing to increase for $2,500 for our teachers. For our administrative professional, we're proposing a 3% increase. For our clerical professionals, we're proposing 5% increase. For our instructional support, 5% increase. And for auxiliary, we're proposing 9% increase. On the right, the cost increase, I wanted to know, this is how much would be costing our district for this increase. That's almost $4.9 million. That remember, this is a recurring cost. Once you give a pay increase, you can retract it, right? So this has to be budgeted moving forward. I know there was a talk about giving stipends and things like that because of, and I think one of our teachers alluded to it earlier. I can tell you that, and I know all of you were at the budget workshop last week. We are actually working with committees to really come up with a proposal for ESSER 3 funds, because we are receiving ESSER 3 funds. And so we want to make sure that we have a solid proposal will be submitted to TEA. It's due July 27. So we'll be proposing, we're sending that proposal to TEA, obviously before the 27th. They have to look at it and approve it. Hopefully, once it's approved, then we can execute the plan. I can tell you that based on our conversation last week, what Ms. Cancino presented on ESSER 3, we would be proposing also a stipend. So this money that you see right here, this pay increase has nothing to do with the federal monies that were part of the stimulus pay. This is strictly Donna ISD yearly budget, normal budget. So this is here to stay. As far as those stipend from ESSER 3 or stimulus money or stimulus, we are working on it, and we'll be proposing close to $3,000 for our teachers also for this coming year and also for the next 2 years. So for 3 years in a row, we'll be proposing a $3,000 stipend for our teachers, and also for the rest of our staff, they'll be also getting a stipend. So again, stay tuned for that. But for now, since that's still in the proposal stages, and we still have to submit to TEA for their approval before we execute, we are securing, and we will bring in this to you, our board members, for their approval. Again, super excited, and we thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do it without you, board members. So this is what we'll be proposing to our staff. Obviously, in order to receive the increase, all employees will receive their respective percent increase from the midpoint, even if their compensation is above the maximum. So we're not we're not saying if you are at the maximum, we're not going to get the money. So everyone would be receiving it. And you also have to work at least with the district for at least 90 days to be eligible for the pay increase. I want to just share with you really quickly another thing, and I want you just to put things in perspective for our teachers. So this is when TASB, remember TASB does this study for us every year. So this is a salary, starting salary for our teachers. This back in 2018-19. Donna was all the way in the bottom. After Sharyland, after Mercedes, our 0-year salary was $46,250. That was $46,250. You can see that we are really number 10, right, in this group of 10 school districts. The year after, just the year after, we went from that 46 and some change. Our starting 0-year salary went up to $50,000. So right next to La Jolla, higher than McAllen, higher than Sharyland, higher than Edinburgh. And a lot of people tell you, oh, it's House Bill 3, right? Well, House Bill 3, every school district received House Bill 3 funds. So it's not just Donna, it's not unique to Donna. Every school district received funds. But yet, Donna ISD is jumped from number 10 all the way to the almost number 5, right? So that's, again, thanks to the support of our board members, thanks to everybody working together through attrition, and we're able to achieve this goal because and you hear me probably saying it a million times, I truly believe in order to attract and retain the best talent in Donna, right? Including our teachers, because they're the one in the trenches are working very hard. We need to make sure that we compensate them very well, right? We need to incentivize them because we don't want them to go anywhere. We want them to stay working with our students because they are the one who's going to make a difference and help all our students be successful. So compensation is key to attract and retain best talent. Here's us as of last year, okay? So as of last year, we were at 51,500. Actually, Westlake was at 51,125, 150 or less. So we were almost top 3 last year. So what we're proposing this year is our starting salary for our first-year teacher to actually be at $53,500. So we're gonna go all the way in the top. I'm not sure what PSJA and Mission and Westlake will give, but I think for us, we feel confident that we're gonna still be in the top. So this is another graph just show you the progression over the years and how our starting salary for our teachers went from 46 and some change, and now it's gonna be at $53,500. So again, thanks to our board for their support and for allowing this to happen. We're very thankful. And again, our teachers and our staff deserve it. They work very hard for this. And so again, we want to make sure we take care of them. So we're proposing about 4.3, 4.4 increase for our teachers overall. And the starting salary will be at $53,500. And that would be the scale, I guess, for our teachers. So just I wanted to put that in perspective. I don't know if you have any questions for us. Again, Ms. Cancino, I don't know if you want to add anything, or Dr. Sorolla, if you want to add anything before we move forward with this.
No, it was just a lot of hard work, Ms. Cancino, and of course, working closely with TASB HR services, but we're hopeful that the board will approve the recommended pay system as presented by the superintendent. We feel that it's very competitive, and combined with our other incentives, it'll be very helpful in allowing us to recruit and retain the best talent.
Dr. Sorolla, I just have one question, or just really a confirmation. The pay increases that we are looking at for next school year, they're going to be based on a revised equity adjustment, right? Because that was done as well throughout the compensation plan.
In this particular pay system, what it has is on for teachers and for administrative professionals, clerical and instructional. It's a basic percentage increase on the midpoint. There is an equity adjustment. However, it's only an auxiliary specifically for one of the departments. So it does not have an equity adjustment. No, ma'am. Just that one department, though.
Dr. Valdez, what it does have is an adjustment to the pay grades. On the minimum, it's increased. So now our lowest paid auxiliary pay grade number 1, the lowest paid, or the starting pay, excuse me, let me correct that, will be at $11. And it also adjusted the minimum, midpoint, and the maximum on each pay grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to also add, and I know it's coming up next, right? I think we're going to talk about later on of the health insurance. I want to also just note, and I hope that during that presentation we'll mention it. Our health insurance premiums are going up. I mean, it's across the state, across the country, right? So in order to help ours with that, we also, as a district, we're also adding $45 on the top of the $505 that our district always contributed. So not only we add in a pay increase, but also the district contribution to the plan is going up again by $45 per staff member. So instead of 505, it would be 550. I don't know, Dr. Sorolla and Mr. Lou Arias probably will discuss it, but I want to just put that out there. And that in itself, that $45 you may a month, right? Per staff member, it may not be a lot, but when you factor it all in, is over almost $1.2 million that the district is also putting in. As you remember earlier, it was a $4.9 million for the pay raise. Now we add in also almost $1.2 million for that extra benefit that or contribution that the district would be adding. So again, because we are, and I want to thank Ms. Cancino here and her staff and everybody really, because we're fiscally very sound. We do a very good job taking care of our taxpayers' money. And again, we can give some of this money back to our staff in terms of compensation, because again, it's the whole goal is to attract and retain the best talent. And so they can take care of our students and do the best they can to help our students be successful. And that's really the key to the success of our students.
So that actually equates to about a $540 cost that instead of it being shifted to the employee, the district is picking up the tab, basically.
Yes, we are picking up
550 per employee. That's correct. It's a very competitive compensation system. Yes.
Yeah. And we will talk about it more later. I'm sorry, during the other presentation.
I think the only thing that I do want to add, again, Dr. Easy, I do want to thank you for your leadership in this one as well. I think this has been one of the strongest attributes, skills that I've seen in your leadership as a superintendent. Been very consistent in delivering very excellent pay increases for our employees, but not only they've been very good and competitive. If you do a comparison valley-wide, they have also continued to be the highest in the entire valley.
Yes.
And I think that could have happened without your leadership and the cooperation of the board.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, thank you to our board. And thank you, Dr. Valdez. Really, with your support, we were able to do this. We were able to actually correct. We were able to give a raise for the last 3 years. And again, thanks to everyone's support. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Ms. Valdez, before we go ahead and vote on it, I'd like to make a couple comments as well. I want to echo the same comments that Ms. Valdez mentioned a while ago. The leadership here at Central Office for taking care of our staff. And I think it's great, and obviously the other districts are going to see this and everybody goes up. But at the end of the day, as long as we keep going up, that's a big plus for all our employees. I just want to keep in mind, we're going to have some other issues later on in the agendas that obviously 81% of our money goes to all staff for payroll. It's really important that we continue to look in, does every campus leadership and their teachers, do they really have anything and everything they need academically, resources? Because that's what's going to get us to the next level. I just cannot ever stop emphasizing money obviously is great, but I want to make some comments later on when we get to the compensation plan. But I think at the end of the day, absolutely, this is great. So kudos to you all, but just don't forget that the entire district revolves around that student, that teacher in the classroom, K through 12. I just,
yes.
You've always heard me say this, and I'll keep saying that. They're the ones that make the wheels go round.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely,
thank you.
Sir. Could not agree more. Yep.
Second.
Approve. In favor?
I think
what are we doing for?
I think we had yeah.
On mute.
Discuss Possible action to approve the 2021-22 Donna ISD compensation plan. Dr. Azzi.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Valdez again. And I have with me here Dr. Sorolla. If you want to have any conversation, I think we received an updated copy of the compensation plan. I know he shared something with you before, and now just again to clarify, the stipend is still working on it. We are, as you know, is September 1st budget. I'm sorry, fiscal year budget. So we usually take this the compensation plan in July, even sometimes in August, but we want to get a head start and make sure we have this upfront. So again, there are a few things, especially around stipends. Dr. Sorolla is still working with some of our directors. They may want to see some changes, as well as also with Coach Leal and possibly with the coaching staff. So those are the only thing I want to make sure that you know. Dr. Sorolla may be bringing them back next board meeting. Dr. Sorolla.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you. So this right here, this update it goes along with the update that you just heard on the compensation system. Dr. Valdez, I misunderstood your question a moment ago. As Ms. Cancino says, we always look at updating the minimum, midpoints, and maximums on the pay grades. That's something that's always the goal, to make sure that's reflective of the market values. Same as for teachers. So anyhow, this document right here, what it reflects is it's adjustments to the pay schedule for teachers and to the minimum, midpoints, and maximums for the administrative, professional, clerical support, instructional support, and the auxiliary pay grades. As the superintendent said, there are a few stipend adjustment recommendations that I've included here. These are the ones that we felt certain on. However, there are quite a few that we're still working on with district leaders and staff, and those are specific to different instructional areas, athletics and extracurriculars. So I look forward to bringing those back to you in the month of July, and that should hopefully finalize revisions to this compensation plan for the 21-22 school year. And I want to just kind of preface my comments by saying that getting your approval to these revisions to this document, what it's going to allow us to do is to competitively recruit and retain employees. It also allows us to get a head start with regard to implementing approved raises within our financial system. So this will go a long way in helping us. We're bringing this to you probably about a month and a half sooner than what we have in the past, and it's definitely a goal that we will continue to have in the future. I'm going to kind of just real quickly run through some of the different revisions. I'm not going to belabor any point unless you guys have any particular questions. So you'll see any change. I've put comments there, and you'll notice what I just said a second ago. The teacher schedule has been updated to reflect the $2,500 raise. And I've also indicated that all of the minimums, midpoints, and maximums have been adjusted. And that's based on TASB market data. They worked with us very closely over the last couple of months. In the administrative professional section, you'll see there's nothing recommended for revision there. However, you'll see there's a revision here on page number 5 with regard to the benefits supervisor position. This is a position that came into existence last year, and at the beginning, the scope of the position was obviously a certain way. What ended up happening is that this position took on quite a bit more responsibility with regard to risk management and just much of the work in benefits and risk management. And so, working with TASB and our consultants, the recommendation is to adjust this to be more in line with the duties of the position, and that is a recommendation of 1 pay grade increase to pay grade 5 based on the responsibilities. Same thing with the coordinator for child nutrition, is to increase the days so that it's more in line with the needs of the department, and that's an increase from 212 to 221, along with all the other coordinators and supervisors in the auxiliary departments. You'll see the revision I just talked about a second ago there on pay grade 5. Pay grade 7, there's an adjustment with regard to an academic support director that previously was in pay grade 6, and the recommendation is to move up 1 pay grade. Pay grade 9, you're going to see 2 new positions that are recommended for creation. It's an adjustment to an executive director of special projects to pay grade 9, and then the creation of the chief of operations position to assist with oversight of our auxiliary departments. So those 2 positions. Moving on to instructional support. No changes there. Recommended under clerical support.
Stop.
Yes, sir.
To those last 2 positions.
Yes, sir. And forgive me if I go too fast. I just want to be respectful of y'all's time. Yes, sir.
All right, we got two positions of chief of operations. And you said as particularly for the auxiliary, we already have a director for auxiliary. Chief of operations, you're gonna be responsible for that position?
Chief of Operations would have oversight of all the auxiliary departments, which incorporates warehouse, maintenance, energy management, custodial, grounds, transportation, child nutrition.
So basically the position that was Ms. Cancino.
This position would report to the head of the business and finance department. So it would be an extra layer of support for the head of our business and operations department.
Ms. Cancino, are you available?
Yes, sir.
Is this position something that you requested?
Did I request it? No, sir.
Do we need that position?
I can only speak for myself. I don't know about the person taking over the position. I don't know what the skill set may be, and it'll probably take more getting to know the finances. So more than likely, it is a needed position, given the fact that the person coming in will have to learn the finances of Don ISD.
All right, so given that, so if we have a chief of operations that will have to have some background on your specialty specifically, that's one. And then secondly is we're gonna lose you here in the next few days. So in the interim, my recommendation would be to hold that position and to fulfill your position, superintendent, for the following time, because I mean, the chief of operations would have to fall under that under the auspices of in this case would be Ms. Cancino's area, correct?
Yeah. So, Mr. Perez, so so we're bringing here for obviously for our board approval, right? So let's say this gets approved. It doesn't mean that we have to hire somebody tomorrow, right? Because anyway, this is for next year. It's for the 2021 to 2022 school year. So it's not for this to finish the year, in other words, right? So we certainly can wait. And I mean, whoever comes next, whether superintendent or acting superintendent, maybe can do that. That's not a problem. But for now, we just bring in like this compensation plan with this particular position. And there is a need simply because, like you just mentioned, is Ms. Cancino is leaving. So there might be even a bigger need, I guess, for somebody like this with knowledge about the operation. I cannot hear. I cannot hear.
Okay. I thought this position already had been posted.
Yes.
And that there had, in fact, it closed last Thursday. Am I correct?
So the position is posted, but we did not interview, we did not hire anybody because we understand that it's for next school year. If you remember correctly, last time we discussed it, I discussed it during, we have this conversation with our board members. And so, but now we're making it on the compensation plan. We added it in the compensation plan. That's what we're doing, Mr. Ramirez.
No applications came in to the district.
No, they are like, because the position was posted, there are folks who applied, but we did not look at it. We did not schedule any interviews yet. We did not do any interviews.
So it's not going to be interviewed anytime soon.
Well, I mean, we're having this conversation. I mean, somebody has to interview at some point, right? If this position gets approved as in the compensation plan, that obviously becomes a vacancy, right? So we'll have to proceed.
And you're not going to wait for the skill set of the assistant superintendent for finance to see what that person brings to the district?
If that's what the board wants me to do, I guess I will do that. Yeah. Or where you've given me a directive, I will do that. I mean, so, yeah, go ahead, sir.
If I can chime in, Ms. Romero, so I spent nearly 5 years overseeing operations in my previous assignment. So if the district needs that assistance, I can definitely help in the selection of a quality candidate.
So we could go for this.
The question is, and
I think you're mute.
So one of the concerns I had was, and I brought up this before
why was that particular department even put under business finance?
What else? Can you hear?
Why was it put under business finance?
We can certainly move it, sir. Again,
That originally
it's
was under HR.
yeah.
Because of all the staffing, but I mean,
Yeah.
that was something I brought up. So I guess when you read the organizational chart, one of the concerns I had was that,
Yeah.
and I know that the person who had it before, I guess, I know that there's a position there that I guess went
Yeah.
over to executive director, I guess, used to oversee that previously the year before or something, but now the changes have made that you're making. But if we're gonna move forward with that position, I would like to see that back where it used to be
Sure.
under HR because of all the
You
employees.
got it.
Because business and finance, honestly, and I'm not saying that I know Ms. Cancino does a great job where she's at, but overseeing auxiliary, I mean,
Yeah.
what exactly, where does that fall in
So-
that, fits that gap of her criteria?
Yeah, and it makes a lot. I think thank you, sir. And I think you just heard Dr. Sorolla mentioning that he worked. I mean, he oversaw those departments before, so it makes total sense for him to be overseeing now that Ms. Cancino is leaving, right? So no, it makes total sense. So thank you, sir. Go ahead, Dr. Sorolla.
So just before you leave, so we're creating positions that we thought before, because Ms. Castillo made it very evident previously that we're creating positions in the past, and we've created additional positions as assistant superintendents. But now we're adding to our executive level positions with more compensation, obviously. I just don't see the rationale for the two different executive director positions. One chief of operations and the other executive, because if I looked at what I saw online, as far as the job description, boy, I tell you what, I would, if I was anywhere else, somebody would me questions that as a board member, it's only for me, it's an obligation to ensure that all of us understand the processes internally and then externally, whether it's legal or is something that we do as a illegal, which we're not. But the point that I'm making is, if you look at the job description, Dr. Sorolla, that's not congruent with our partner districts. It's not congruent with the upper level districts for any chief operation officer. And I can tell you because I used to be one. And given just the position that it has as a coup, it merits a lot of detail that it does not have. Where do we get this job description from, and how do we get to that?
This is actually a model TASB job description. It's based on a model TASB job description for assistant superintendent of operations. I did notice that their recommended level of education was a bachelor's, and the years of experience was up to the district's discretion. If there's a sentiment that the job description could be stronger, I'll take responsibility for that. But nonetheless, I referenced TASB's job descriptions.
Well, I can tell you, if you were to go to just our partner cities across the ways, which is BSJA, they definitely don't have the same job description that we have. Granted, they're a bigger district, but the requirements remain the same.
Colonel, the only thing that I want to say, if you don't recall, I think it was a couple of board meetings ago when I think the same question surfaced about the assistant superintendent for business and finance only having a bachelor's. And that was, even conservators said, sometimes it just takes a specific skill. It doesn't require a master's or a doctorate or anything. There's positions that require more a specific skill. So if you want assistant superintendent, which is a higher position, if you look at the job description, that one only requires a bachelor's as well. And it's a higher position than this one. So I mean, I just want
to. Again, it goes to just, it beckons the questions, and it beckons a lot of questions, and I'm sure the constituency is going to do the same. So, I mean, again, I'm not in agreement with this, and I know we'll vote as a whole, but to have this position open like that and to have the job description it offers, it's a lot to begin for.
Okay. Dr. Sorolla, you want to go ahead and continue with your presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and go kind of quickly through the rest of this. And if I go too fast, please stop me. Once again, I'm just going quickly to respect your time. Moving on to the clerical section, I believe there was just one recommended change. Recent House bill legislation from about a year ago, it did talk about the importance of having somebody on staff who could assist the technology department with regard to cybersecurity. And so based on a recommendation from our technology director and based on some of the threats that we've seen affecting districts in general, that's the basis for the recommendation of cybersecurity specialist in pay grade 8. Auxiliary pay plan, you'll see here that we've adjusted the CNP workers, cafeteria workers, their days to be 187. And this is a result of training needs. And typically the days have been 185 in a standard year, 185 days. So we're requesting the increase of 2 days to address some of the training needs that those departments face. You'll see with regard to auxiliary substitutes, we're requesting an increase in $1 per hour. We know it's very difficult to staff those areas, and hopefully we'll get your support to adjust the hourly rate for the substitutes and auxiliary and for bus drivers to 13. You'll see it's kind of redundant. You have the cafeteria driver going up by a couple of days. It goes along with the previous recommendation. Same thing here with the cafeteria managers for the secondary and elementary. And then you'll see here on pay grade 6, you're going to see dispatcher, police department. We found that there needed to be an adjustment there. Dispatcher used to be under, it was under a secretarial type placement. And based on the nature of the role, there was a recommendation to go and adjust it to align it with the route dispatcher and transportation. So you'll notice that they're both in pay grade 6 under clerical. And then, I'm sorry, under auxiliary, I apologize. Dispatcher used to be under clerical and has been moved down to auxiliary pay grade 6. Landscaping irrigation technician, this is going to be a position in grounds to assist with some of the grounds issues that are of a plumbing nature. And so we have that recommended for pay grade 6. Moving on, that concludes those recommendations to the main section. With regard to stipends, there were a couple of revisions, and these are just the ones that we felt certain about. Let me see here. You'll see here we've added the teacher leadership to the master stipend. We heard one of our teachers talk about that and the great training they're receiving in that area. And then you'll see there's an adjustment here with regard to curriculum writing, that particular stipend, hourly rate, I'm sorry. And then there is a correction here toward the end. We've added about a teacher being in good standing and not being placed on administrative leave to receive the teacher attendance incentive stipend. I think the last one is coming up here in just one moment. Yeah, this one right here. Basically, all we've done here is that we've added on this item on teacher incentive allotment to indicate the cohort D is going to include all 23 schools. Hopefully, we'll get the TEA approval. It'll be all 23 campuses with the exception of the Mariposa facility. And then this stipend that was relevant only to the spring semester has been removed for next year. And that pretty much is all we have for now. Once again, I plan to come back in July to bring you a much more defined plan with regard to stipends once I've had a chance to meet with our directors and our campus leaders and teachers. Any questions?
You know, Dr. Soto, I saw it on the, I guess, yeah, you went a little bit fast, but I'm seeing that you also approved the $3,000 for the teacher leadership master's program, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We have that in there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, no problem. Yes, I just didn't hear you mention it, but I saw it here. Thank you.
I get to.
I've got some questions if I may, Mr. Sorolla.
Go ahead.
Now, is it my understanding that you're making a presentation right now and it's going to come back to us again with the updates on this particular compensation plan? Or are we going to take action on this one?
We're asking you to take action on this, and then in July, yeah, the incentive, the particular stipend part, and that's and this is a living document, so it is pretty common to yeah.
Of course, the cleaner we have it before we leave for the supper, the better be, in my opinion.
Yes,
listen,
sir.
I would like to be certain that we consider what was mentioned earlier, and you know, I'm thinking in the back of my head, and I just think they've been out on the left. Put on the left side, and we really just go on and on and on. And that is to consider giving the stipend to the English teachers, the reading and writing. And when you stop and think, you know, I'm on page 20, and what I'm about to say is nothing to take away from the CTE and the math and the science. okay? Because all those are important, but they do have the stipends there. Now, when we stop and think about the English teacher, where he or she's doing the writing and the reading, those things are instrumental. Like I've always said, that if we can't get them to read and write in the pre-K years, then it's going to be very difficult the rest of the path. And it is really, really, really important. But yet, I see the ESL. We have ESL stipend of 1,000, and if anyone's ever been around trying to teach a second language, that is difficult in itself. So the 1,000 can maybe even be looked at to increase it. So in other words, everything that I'm conveying right now, obviously is advocating for the English teacher, the reading and writing, because at the end of the day, they get hit reading every single grade level all the way through in both. And some people may say, well, an English teacher can do everything. Well, yes, theoretically, but then you still need to break down because the writing is very critical. It's a very specialized. And now that they're doing away with the 4th and 7th, I can assure you that reading test is going to be made much more difficult because they're going to try to squeeze everything in there as much as possible. So if we can consider that, and honestly, I certainly feel badly because that point was brought up, and sometimes the old saying says that if you don't speak up, they can't hear you. So I do commend the young lady that spoke earlier because it's an advocacy for the English teacher. So please consider that with regard to everything else. Now, just going back to the math and science.
I have a question. I guess maybe a clarification. You're asking this for the one that you're asking to be looked at. You're talking about all teachers, including elementary.
Yes. Some form of stipend. And again, since you can research it because, it really is important. And again, a stipend is something that obviously we know that is totally above the salary. But the math and science, you will recall back in the day before the ACP program came into the picture, many of our teachers were coming straight from universities, which they went the student teacher route. They went to the content and so forth. And then we had a tremendous shortage of teachers where we were actually putting these big numbers out there for the math and science. But yet the English teacher was kind of stayed in the background. And now we have, I guess, I would say 8 out of 10 teachers are ACPs.
Mr. Castillo, I'm sorry to cut you off. Sorry, I mean, go ahead, finish on.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is most of those teachers are the ACP, the alternative certification programs, which again, the stipends that they're getting obviously qualifies them as well. But just please consider that. And when you bring that the next round for those teachers that I mentioned, because my gosh, when you look at the stipends that we currently have, we have many individuals in the CTE and of course the math and science. And again, not to take anything away from that, but let's bring up our English reading and writing.
And no, sir, thank you very much. And we'll take this in consideration. We're not prepared, obviously, to recommend that yet, right? So whatever we have right now, but as Dr. Sorrell was saying, yeah, he bring it back with the stipends for next time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that recommendation. Any other questions or recommendations? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sorolla. Do I have a motion to approve compensation plan as presented? Okay, do I have a second? Can I second? I second. So let's take a vote. Mr. Castillo, how do you vote?
In favor.
Colonel?
I vote against.
And stepped out. Mr. Valdez?
I vote in favor.
Oh, okay, David.
I'm on Zoom.
Okay. In favor, Ms. Watts? Oh, that's right. You moved. Mr. Reina? Mr. Reina?
You're muted. There we go.
Okay, thank you. I also vote in favor. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 5, report on Resilient School Support Program partnership with Donna ISD. Dr. Azzi.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Valdez. And we are very fortunate during the pandemic. We needed some extra help, and we're very fortunate that we applied for a grant through TEA, and we're one of the luckiest when I think they approved about 40 school districts in the entire state to get some extra support by TEA. And so we were actually assigned a great company, great partner, and I think they are with us. We have Carrie Briggs here and Dallin McKinnon. They were a great support to our staff, to our teachers, to our CNI department, creating a different products and documents, and they always were there for us. And again, all that stuff was done through the TEA grant money. So they are being sponsored by TEA, but we're fortunate enough to have their support. So they both are with us here, I think, maybe the rest of the team, and they want to share with us what they've done so far to support our teachers and staff.
Thank you, Dr. Azaiz. School board members, it's really great to be with you tonight. My name is Carrie Briggs. I'm part of the Ed Direction team. I'd like to share my presentation with you. Hopefully you can see it, okay. Great. I just want to say at the outset, we have so enjoyed our time with Donna ISD, and the team is just fantastic. We've been working with them since this past September. We feel really privileged that we get to support them for another year ahead. And so tonight I just want to quickly talk through a little bit of what we've done this past year and give you a preview for what's planned ahead. So it's part of, it's part of the Resilient School Support Program. And in this past year, really was focused on the virtual learning and supporting teachers to do the best they could in a very challenging circumstance. Our team were so moved by the video clip earlier with the teacher in her classroom and just the resilience it showed of teachers in that moment. Focusing on teachers, students, parents, leaders, and building out a really robust knowledge base on virtual learning. This year ahead, now that everybody's coming back to school, the focus will be on accelerating learning. And you talked through some of the data earlier tonight. You know, there's admittedly some real challenges. You're not alone. Every district we're supporting this year is facing the same kind of challenges, particularly in math. And so together we've been working with the team to create a strategic plan and focus on some particular learning acceleration strategies that will help the district implement over the year ahead. We'll start that work, the implementation side of it, with the beginning of the school year. Quickly, just want to really call out, and you hopefully know most of these people. They're just fantastic. Really have been terrific partners, responsive, data-oriented, wanting the best for their kids. Just have really loved our time with this team. And so as we look ahead and looking back, you all know because you lived it, right? There was a ton of challenges that Donna faced this year through the pandemic, through the freeze in February, other things that were happening in the city. And we together really helped, saw a lot of resilience among the students, parents, and teachers. So the things we did this past year was, I think, can best be encapsulated with the notion that even while schooling was virtual and it could have very easily just said, we're just going to do the best we can, your teachers really committed themselves to continue learning to improve their teacher practice. And so you had teachers completing more than 3,000 online PD sessions that we co-created with the team. 9 out of 10 of them said they were satisfied or highly satisfied with the work. They continued meeting as professionals in learning communities. They did over 345 meetings together, talking about virtual instruction and how to make it better. They allowed us into their classrooms so that we could learn with them and provide feedback. It really was just a very robust learning experience for everyone involved. At the end of the first semester, teachers reported a 50% increase in their proficiency in providing virtual instruction. So really saw some growth among the teachers as the year progressed. We're using all of those lessons to build on the year ahead. And as we built this plan together with your team, we looked at a lot of student data. We surveyed some parents. We talked to teachers. We did focus groups with teachers and administrators. We surveyed teachers. And so this plan really has the input and benefit of hearing from your community. And so what are we going to do together looking ahead? Based on the data, what we're seeing so far, especially at elementary and middle school, there's a real need for math support. Again, Dawn is not unique in that fashion. Across the state, we're seeing this with every district we're supporting, that math just really didn't fare well in the virtual environment. We will also be paying attention to ELAR. And the survey data showed us that teachers are going to benefit from professional learning on high impact instructional strategies. So those things that we know will make a difference for kids are the things we'll be doubling down on with your teachers in the year ahead. We're going to prioritize a handful of schools. You probably know these schools better. For sure, you know these schools better than I do, but we've got 6, 7 elementary schools that we're going to prioritize and 2 middle schools. And so we'll be working with those leaders, the instructional coaches there to kind of help them focus on math this year ahead. Donna also has been really interested in providing some high dosage tutoring. And so already starting to build the infrastructure needed to make that happen and building momentum on that front. So we'll be helping them with that. And really thinking about once we're in the classroom, how do we differentiate among kids in terms of what they need? Because not every kid's going to need the same thing, right? Everybody's going to bring in their own circumstances from the year behind. And so we'll help teachers really get skilled at differentiating and scaffolding instruction for students so they're successful in the year ahead. We have supporting data and all sorts of other things that are probably in your board packet, but I want to be mindful of time. And so that's sort of the plan we would hope to present to you tonight. I'm happy to take any questions. And I know Mr. Ron is on the line, Ms. Harris, Ms. Anderson, they're here, Dr. Aziz, obviously all of them have been an integral part of making this plan real. So any of us can answer questions.
I only have one question is, how did you end up with those particular campuses, the elementaries and the 2 middle schools? What data or what research did you use to select those campuses?
We looked at the student data from those campuses, and I believe that these are some feeder patterns, if I'm remembering that correctly. Some of these elementary schools feed into these 2 middle schools.
So it was based on a feeding program, not on the academic data?
No, both survey data and also feeder patterns.
Okay.
I mean, student data, not survey data, students and the feeder patterns.
We'll get details later. I don't want to hold up the meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Dr.
Yes.
Azzi.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the other one, update on self-funded health insurance plan.
Thank you, Dr. Valdez. And I think we have with us, Mr. Lou Arias with us. So he'll be presenting, and again, he'll be talking about the addition of our district contribution, right? And many other things. So go ahead, Mr. Arias.
So good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent AZ, Lou Arias with Gallagher Benefit Services. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to share my screen here, and I am going to go over some of the items. Oh, where is it? Let me find it. On my PowerPoint. Apologize. I had it up. There it is. For some reason, it's not letting me share. Let me try again.
I can try on this end if you'd like.
Okay, if you have, it's the one I sent you.
Is it this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let me get this back up here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide the board with an update via the financial monitor report. And the last time I shared the report, I think the majority of folks had maybe some issues reading the font. So what I did is I summarized it for you, but then I also provided the backup. But this is also, I just wanted to make you aware, this is also the same information that I've been sharing with the insurance committee. As you heard Superintendent AZ talk about, I have been meeting since May the 5th with your insurance committee, going over various portions of the self-funded insurance plan, specifically what is a self-funded plan, how it works. And then we went into the cost projections, which I'm going to go into today, and then the contribution strategies that were mentioned earlier. and how that equates to the rates to the employees. And there are some other plan designs that we're going to be looking at. One of them is an HMO plan to help offset some costs. And then I have one more meeting this week, actually this Friday, with the committee. We're looking at plans that have reduced the deductible by $500 on both the high and the low plan and the co-pays, just to see what that looks like. They were interested to see what that would look like in comparison to what they have now, and then make a decision. So we're going to go over the financial monitor reports, the cost projections, the contribution, and the contribution scenarios. So here's just a summary as opposed to that big busy graph that I'm so used to showing you. So your medical summary for all plans with data through March. April just dropped at the latter part of May, but because of the holiday, we're running a little behind. So these will run through March. And this is all plans combined. So 50% of the cost is for medical. 27% of your cost is pharmacy expenses. And 5% of your cost is your admin fees, which are your ASO fees with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And 11% is the cost of your stop loss premium. That's the insurance portion of the health plan. And so the plans combined, all plans are running at a deficit at about $2.6 million. So if you go to the next slide. So I did some comparison over, well, this isn't the comparison yet. It incorporates the comparison. So but for March alone, just for March, the budgeted cost was $1.3 million. That budgeted cost is what Donna contributes on a per employee per month, but it also includes the employees' contributions. But the actual claims for that same month in March were $2 million. When you add your claims and your fixed cost, it was $2 million. So from the previous slide, all plans combined through March, a deficit for March only, just for March, was a deficit of $740,000. So that was one of the hardest hit months. Year to date, the plans are running at a deficit of 2.6, which you saw earlier. If you go to the next slide, Dr. Sorolla. So here's where I summarized all of that. You don't have to zero in on these smaller numbers, but this is just showing you from September through March. If you look at that bottom line where it's highlighted, this is all plans together. When you combine all plans together, I mean, we got hit hard, fairly hard in the months of starting in November. February was bad and March was bad. And these, when I spoke to you all last and showed you the data behind it, a lot of it was due to COVID in the fall, October, November, December. And then we did have some high cost claimants that came in addition to the COVID. And so, as I mentioned earlier, if you look at that bottom line, all plans combined, we're at $2.6 million combined. If you go to the next slide. Here's where we start to look at, okay, here are our high cost claimants. What is driving the cost of the health plan? And so, as you all know, you have a $300,000 individual stop loss limit. So the district is self-funded for the first $300,000 of each employee, and then the reinsurance, which is with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the stop loss is what kicks in for the reimbursements. So through March, you have 1, 2, 3 high cost claimants that have exceeded that $300,000 limit. And to the right, you can see the expected reimbursement by your stop loss carrier, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield. So on those 3 claimants, Donna no longer has any risk on those, because now the stop loss carrier is going to pay claims going forward, but they did hit that individual stop loss. Now, if you look at numbers 4 and maybe 5, number 4 is at 216,000, number 5 is at 181,000. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more months to go. So we're about halfway through. We will continue to track these. We start tracking them at 150,000 to see how many more of those go over the stop loss limit. But the top 3, Donna's done with the risk. The stop loss is now paying those claims on those particular diagnoses. The other number that you need to take note of is that the total of all your high cost claimants paid through May is about $2 million. And that equates to about 20% of your gross claims. So if you think about it, you've got 8 people that are that represent 20%, almost 21% of your total claim cost. And so usually when you look at the high cost claimants, if you were to pull the high cost claimants out, the majority of the time the plan's running fine. And usually it's, 20% or so of is a very small population that drives about 80% of the cost. So you do have those high cost claimants. If we go to the next slide. So in comparison to March of last year, here's what March of last year was looking like. So last year in March, all plans combined, we were doing much better. We were at a $26,000 surplus. If you look down at the bottom, we only had October and January, and we got hit pretty hard in March at 300,000 as a deficit, opposed to this year, all of them were at a deficit when you look at all plans together. Now, if you recall, we talked about COVID and what the impact was going to be last year. And a lot of groups and actuaries discussed, well, what kind of impact would COVID have to claims? And it was not what everyone thought. And you might recall that I said this, is that the COVID claims, although Donna did get hit particularly hard on COVID. The reason you were doing better last year around this time is when all the non-essential and elective surgeries were all postponed and canceled because they simply weren't doing those procedures last year. And we fast forward to where we are today. We had COVID claims come in, and then we started to have and are starting to have those elective and rescheduled non-essential surgeries starting to come back up. And so we're starting to see that. What I am starting to see, if we compare this to last year, obviously we're not in the same position as we were last year. The next two reports, which would be April and May, are going to be very telling as to whether or not this continues flat, if it goes up, or if it starts to bend downward. When I started looking at the raw data for April, in comparison to March, the claims are starting to trend downward, but not as fast as we would like to. But again, we've got 6 more months to go before we see how this all plays out. Can you go to the next slide, Dr. Sorolla? So that being said, the next thing we started doing is we started looking at the cost projections. We are now in the time of the year where we have to say, okay, we have to start looking at 9/1/2021 into the next plan year. And what's that going to look like? What are we going to budget to? So our actuaries started that process, and we worked up the cost projections. And that is when we started meeting with your insurance committee. Your insurance committee has been extremely involved. We've met almost weekly since May the 5th, and we've gone through a bunch of different scenarios, a bunch of different health plan designs, and have narrowed it down to, I believe, one option, and then we're going to look at another option on Friday. So this is where we start talking about what are we going to do going forward. And as Superintendent Azzi mentioned, this is where you'll see the increase by $45 per employee per month on the health insurance to help offset some of that cost projection. If we can go to the next slide. This slide is basically just showing what your plans look like today. So Dr. Sorolla, if we can go to the next slide, please.
Can you go back, Mr. Arias? For the record, I want to just go back. So again, this is where we rank as far as school district. This is the district contribution compared to our surrounding school districts. So
Yes.
as you can see, we are in the top tier when it comes to contribution, but we taken this number, the 505, then the proposal is for it to go to 550 instead of 505. So, and in addition, $45, just to, for the record.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overlook this slide. There was a lag on this slide. I didn't see it come up, but at 505, if you look at the slide to the right, Donna is right up there. When it goes up to 550, which is what we're looking at now, I mean, you're going to be amongst I think, number 2 ISD that contributes the most towards their health plan. And so what we wanted to do is this slide here, because a lot of the employees after the very first meeting did ask that question, where does Donahue contributions in comparison to the other districts in the area? And so we wanted to make sure that we put in here. Next slide, please. I might have a lag because I'm still seeing the same slide.
Mr. Arias, if you're having problems, you're welcome to come over here or you know.
Okay, here we go. Now it came back up. So here's what the renewal looks like. We do this every year for the district. So we look at where we are using claims through February when we started this exercise, and we say, how do we project forward and how do we start budgeting for the next plan year, which starts 9/1? And so we made some assumptions. And so we put those assumptions on this page, our actuaries did. And so the assumptions are that medical trend is basically medical inflation. We always account for trend. And we accounted for 5.9% of trend and 9.5 on the pharmacy. That's what the industry is showing in conjunction with medical and pharmacy trend. Now we did include, because you guys are in the TEC, now you have ESI, but you have ESI, the TEC pricing, which is the Texas Educational Collaborative. That program is providing approximately $1.4 million of rebates. The district has been getting on average about $330,000 to $350,000 every quarter on rebates, which is good because those are high dollar pharmacy specialty claims that are very expensive, and it's good to get a rebate when those manufacturers offer that rebate. And this was negotiated through that TEC to maximize those rebates. And so it did include the rebates in this number. The other thing we wanted to bring up is via that TEC, we also started the Save on SP, the AUM, and Safeguard Solution programs that we started effective January 1st. Those are now starting to come back slowly with some results, and we're starting to see savings on that. It'll be interesting to see how that pharmacy, especially targeting the specialty drugs, on how that's going to come back. But the estimated savings was $600,000 on a projected savings on those new pharmacy programs that we implemented on 1/1. Now, we were very, very conservative on your stop loss. We're actually in the process of talking with, in fact, we talked to him yesterday, Mr. Smedley, your purchasing department, on getting ready to put the stop loss out to bid. Blue Cross did provide us with the renewal. It was about 16%, I believe 16%, no, 15.5%. And so I went back to go negotiate that, but it was decided, you know what, we need to put this out to bid with everything that's going on with the increase of the contribution. We need to do our due diligence and just put it out to bid. So stop loss will be going out to bid. I can tell you that I'm fairly certain, very certain actually, that we will come in well below 20%, but we use 20% as a conservative percentage for increase on stop loss. And then of course, on the admin cost per your contract, Blue Cross has a 3% escalator every year. And so this is already in the contract. So we're estimating 3% on your admin cost, which is a smaller piece of your total cost. So having said that, when we put all of that in there, the plan is needing an additional 12.9% to fund to expected. We need 30 if we're going to fund to the maximum. Now, we did fund to the maximum the first year because we wanted to cover all our bases and make sure that there was no additional risk for the district. So we're certainly not funding to the max this year, and we're not funding to the max going into next year, but I wanted to show it to you what that would look like. And basically that means you're funding it to where there is no risk left on the table. You're covering all your risk. So let's look at what that starts to turn into. And so I shared this information with the insurance committee, and leading up to this conversation, I don't mind sharing with you real quick. We went through a whole self-funded insurance 101. So they learned what stop loss is. They know what admin fees are. They know what ISL or individual stop loss levels are. They know how all these components now fit together with the district's contribution and what they contribute. So if you look at that, this shows for 9/1/21 through 8/31/2022, and this is funding to expected. Today it's 15.8 million. We need 12.9%, which is 17.8. So we're shy $2 million. So if we look at the bottom part, that's to expected. The top is to expected. The bottom part is what we would need to fund to if we were going to cover all our bases and not leave any risk. We're certainly not going to do that, but I have to do my due diligence to show you what that looks like. 15 would go to 20 million, which is a 30% increase, or 4.8 million. So for right now, for the purposes of the conversation, we're going to continue to fund at expected. So if we can go to the next slide. So the first scenario, we actually went through quite a few scenarios. There were 4, 5, 6 scenarios starting from May 5th, going through the second to last meeting, and we narrowed it down to a handful of scenarios. So one of the scenarios is that Donna doesn't make any changes to the plans. They stay exactly the way they are, but that Donna would increase their contribution from 505 to 550, as the superintendent had mentioned earlier. So what does that look like, and what does that do to everything we just talked about? So if you look at the top part, it's a repeat of what we saw earlier, and at the far right, it shows the district PEPM at 505. Below that, it shows you what it would be at 550. So instead of, we needed we needed 12.9%. When we go to 550, it lowers it down to the 8.9%. And that's keeping the plans exactly the way they are. So if we go to the next slide, it'll all start to make sense as far as what employees actually pay. So what you're looking at now is the current rate, or what the employees pay for the medium plan and the high plan. And I've got the enrollment numbers on the left side. The majority of the employees are on the medium plan. If you look at the bottom, I have 2 columns highlighted in yellow. One is at 505, that's what they pay today. If the district contributes 550 PEPM and we stay on the same plans, then the employee only on the median plan goes from 25 to 32.35. If we, on the next tier, it goes from 333 to 431. When we start getting to the dependents, I'll remind you that on the dependents, Donna does not contribute. Most school districts, in fact, none of the school districts contribute to dependents. So if you need to add your dependents, those numbers do go up quite significantly when we start getting to the other tiers on the medium plan. And then when we look at the high plan, we're looking at 116 on the high plan. Employee only 112 goes to 145. 423 goes to 547. 292 to 378, 432 to 559, and then 642 to 831. We still need to get, we still needed to get to that expected number, but by changing it for the district to contribute additional 550, this is what the numbers would look like, and this is what the committee members saw. Prior to this, they did see some scenarios where the contribution remained at 505 and what we needed to look like. And that's when the discussion started to come as to, well, what if the district was able to, in the budget, come up with a higher contribution, since we started at some of the other school districts in the area, and we found even before the higher contribution, Donna was high up on that list. So if we go to the next slide.
Mr. Arias, could you go back to the last slide, please? I just want to highlight again, I think I mentioned it earlier, sorry to interrupt, but what you see again, the difference, right? What Mr. Arias is trying to tell you, but this bottom number here, underneath the 550, what the district, the 13,866,600 and $600 underneath that, that's what an additional money that our district will be contributing. So it's, I think I said 1.2 million earlier. Well, it's a little short of that. It's $1.134, $550. That will be an additional money that will be, or contribution, I guess our district will be putting. By putting that $45, the total will total 1.134. That's just to remind you about that. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
So if we can go to the next slide. Now, the next thing we started talking about is, okay, so what would this look like if we change the network? The network, sticking with Blue Cross, but let's change the network. Now, we wanted to make sure that we didn't change to a super narrow network where you're going to have a bunch of doctors and hospitals kicked out of the network to leverage better discounts. We wanted to make sure that we still had coverage available for the employees. So we looked at what Blue Cross proposed as their rate plan. at the exact same exercise, but what if we change the network from an EPO plan? An EPO network is a narrow network. You're currently on a narrow network. EPO stands for Exclusive Provider Organization. And so HMO would be your health maintenance organization. So we looked at the same scenarios. Now, if we go to an HMO plan, Blue Cross says, then we get an additional 4% on all the medical claims. In other words, their discount is 4% better than their EPO program. So that brings the claims costs down. And then we're looking at the scenario again with 550 opposed to 505. So let's look at what the numbers turn to then. So if we're looking at the two plans here, I put this plan up here just to show you that the plan design itself will remain the same. We are going to be able to tweak the copays, the primary care copay and the specialty copay. That'll be in the next insurance committee meeting, but for the most part, these numbers will represent the exact same plan design. So if we can go to the next slide, Dr. Sorolla. All right, so same exercise, only this is an HMO, which is minus 4%. The claims are 4% better than they were on the EPO. And so if we look at the 505 with the HMO, we're at 15, we would need 17.3. If you remember, the top one was 18 and change, and it was $2 million. The difference is only $1.5 million. And then if we look at the scenario where the district kicks in 550 as opposed to 505, you'll notice that, again, as superintendent mentioned, those bottom numbers, the employees portion would only go up 412,000, but the district's portion goes up $1.1 million, meaning the district is still contributing that same 550, and they're throwing another $1.1 million to help offset that cost for the employees. So let's look at that same slide, but we're looking at what the employee rates are now with the HMO. So if we're looking at the medium and the high plan, now 25 goes to 28.35. 333 goes to 378, 218 to 247, 321 to 365, and 526 to 596. Much more favorable than the numbers we saw earlier on the EPO. If we look at the high plan, there's 116, 112 goes to 127, 423 goes to 480, 292 to 331, 432 to 490, and 642 to 729. Again, highlighting the difference in the contribution to go up to $550. And again, that $1.1 million that the district is increasing their contribution to the plan. Now, what I want to do here is, part of the exercise when we went through this is we spent an entire, at least hour, maybe a little bit longer than that, talking with the insurance committee about, okay, well, the HMO looks good, but how is that different than what we have today? So we went over the differences between an HMO and their current network, which is the EPO. We also did a network disruption, and we laid the current EPO plan on top of the HMO plan. And we had a 98.9% parity. So match. The only specialist, because then the next was, okay, which doctors or which specialties were not on the EPO, that were on the EPO but not on the HMO. And it was the pathology, anesthesiology, ER docs, and radiology. And then we had another specialty, which is dermatology. And there's usually a dermatology shortage on networks, regardless of what network you're on. But those are the doctors that would not be on, that fell out of network or not on the HMO plan. But the funny thing is they also are not on the EPO plan. So the only disruption we're looking at is a couple of dermatologists and very few primary care doctors. And so I explained how the HMO worked to the employees. If you'd like to kind of go to the next slide, Dr. Sorolla. We explained how the HMO worked to the employees. And that's when we kind of paused and said, okay, let's look at what we just, what we just went through the last couple of weeks. So on an HMO versus the EPO, or EPO versus the HMO, the pros are there's a lower projected employee contributions versus the EPO. The HMO is much more, because of that additional discount, it's a minimal network disruption in comparison to their current plan, which is the EPO. Another pro is employees will now have a primary care doctor to direct and manage their care. I asked the employees during the conversation how many of them actually had a true primary care doctor. And there were a couple of hands that went up, but for the most part, the general consensus was most employees, when they need to go, will just look at the network and pick a doctor that's either close to home or close to work, whatever works for them. They don't really have a primary care doctor to manage their care. Well, on the HMO, it requires them to pick a primary care doctor to manage that care. And when we start talking about wellness programs and diabetes and cholesterol and hypertension, that's where this type of plan really starts to see or bend that curve over a long period of time, because now we have somebody managing that care and is being held accountable for who they're referring to and the right referral for the right setting and the most appropriate price. There's no increase to deductibles or out-of-pocket maximums. Now we are going to look at some scenarios that do reduce it, and I'll show those to the employees on Friday. But on this exercise, everything stayed the same, with the exception of I am going to be able to work with the committee on modeling out by lowering the copays for both primary care and specialty care by $10. So that'll help out on the primary care and specialty care. And then there's an increased focus on wellness and health management. It's a very different type of plan. HMOs are not new. They've been around in the marketplace for quite a while. And we're starting to see slowly them starting to come back. Now, some of the cons, because there's always a con, right? Or a few, is specialty visits will require a referral from their primary care doctors. So under your plan today, if I hurt my back over the weekend, I can go directly to an orthopedic doctor or a chiropractor, wherever I would like to go. On the HMO, you need to go to your primary care doctor first. They will triage you and say, you know what, I think it's just a strain. Let me give you these muscle relaxants or whatever, and we'll monitor it. And if it gets worse, then we'll refer you out. Or they may just say, you absolutely need to go to an orthopedic, but it's managed. Now, a lot of discussion was spent on this referral. And so the fear was, if there was any negative, was that, so I've got to go to my PCP every single time to get a referral to my specialist? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, you do like in the example I just gave. But if you already have a chronic condition, like whatever that chronic condition is, and you're already seeing a specialist, every quarter, your primary care doctor does have the ability to provide you with a referral that's good for more than just one visit. And we normally see that. It's not logical to have the employee go to the primary care doctor for every single visit, but that is up to the doctor and between the doctor and the patient. We don't, the insurance companies don't get involved in that. So it depends on the relationship you have with your doctor. And since we heard that a lot of employees don't have a primary care, this is the perfect opportunity for them to set up that first appointment and start seeing that doctor, because that doctor is going to start reminding them, hey, you haven't had your routine annual exam. I haven't seen you in 2 years. We need to start making, we need to keep up with your numbers on your blood work. But the referrals, and then I did hear some employees saying that they're already used to being asked when they go see a specialist. They're almost always asked for a referral by the specialist because they want, and it's not surprising, because those specialists you're on a narrow network already. So they already think that there has to be a referral anyway. And then the other big con is there are no out-of-network benefits, but you don't have out-of-network benefits today. So an employee cannot willingly go see a provider that's not on the list and expect there to be a benefit. However, if there's an emergency, you're in a car accident or something really bad happens while you're traveling or here, you go to the nearest hospital, emergencies are covered as if they were in network. But if I decide I'm going to have knee surgery with a doctor that's not on the list, then that doctor is not going to be paid by the insurance company, but that's no different than what you have today. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions on the HMO.
Mr. Reyes, I've got a question. I noticed there in the blue in the bottom, you said that the insurance committee results, 68% of the committee favored the HMO versus the EPO, and the recommendation is to to move into HMO effective 9/1. My question is, how big is this committee in numbers? And because right now we currently in the district, based on the numbers that were presented earlier, we are showing 2,195 employees. So that's a big number. And I guess my biggest concern is, do we have good representation that could be equitable, can say it's equitable with a professional, clerical, auxiliary, and your nursing department? Because, I mean, obviously everything you're saying to us.
Corolla talk about that?
Yeah,
The committee, how big is the committee?
Sure. Mr. Rivera, if you can help me out, but I do recall that we had about 35 members and we had representation. Can you chime in on that, on the diversity of the committee and the numbers?
Correct. Yes, we have a representation from all population, such as auxiliary employees, teachers, administrators, clerical employees. We pretty much try to cover most of the employee population so that they can be represented equally.
That's 1.5% of the entire group. I guess you would have to zoom in again, because obviously the biggest concern that we have here, or me personally, is that we have ample. The professional, obviously, they're professionals because of their endorsements or what have you. But the auxiliary also is strong in their areas, and some of them may not comprehend the details that we're talking about. So you see what I'm getting at is your custodial, your transportation, your maintenance, some clerical staff, and even I venture to say some professionals, because their job is to teach our leaders, not so much in the insurance business. And based on what I just heard right now, obviously it's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer, go with HMO, but that's just me. Did our employees comprehend all that?
Mr. Castillo, we did make an effort to make sure that the committee was inclusive. I know we had talked about this about a month and a half ago, and I know you were very emphatic that you wanted to make sure we were inclusive, and so that was a goal for us to be inclusive and be diverse. And I feel like the committee, they did understand the content. We spent a good 2-3 meetings going over the basics. And so I know that Mr. Arias spent, like I said, the first 2 meetings going over the basics of an HMO, EPO, just health insurance in general, self-funded insurance. So I do feel like we did spend enough time covering the basics. And I do, based on the representation we had on the committee, the 35 members, that there was strong consensus that if the district did increase the district contribution from 505 to 550, that the HMO is a no-brainer, as you stated. Yes, sir.
And based on that, again, just my last comment, and then I'll let you proceed. Those numbers of the 68% that voted in favor, and you had 32% that said, no, we don't want that. I'm just curious. I mean, did that 32%, was that category professional, auxiliary, or what was their concern? Because basically you're looking at 11 of those individuals are the ones that said, no, we don't want that. And 68 are the ones that said, yeah, they do. They were okay with it. And again, I'm just looking at numbers. 24 said yes, 11 said no. What areas did they come from? What representation they coming from? All I'm wanting to be concerned is that we're inclusive with maybe all those 24 were all professionals and what have you.
Mr. Castillo, we're gonna meet with the committee again on Friday, and we'll gather more data. We don't intend to bring you an action item on this topic until next month, and so we'll gather more data for you.
And again, no names by all means, but the departments would definitely be of good information for us, so that we know that at least we have people up there. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Z, actually, I don't know, maybe Ms. Cancino or the purchasing gentleman, what is the status on the RFQs for this particular item? What is the status?
Are you talking about for the consultant? I
Yes.
think we're moving forward based on our last board meeting. We wanted to go out for proposals, so we're working on it. I think it's scheduled to be published on Sunday. I guess the Sunday, June 6th and 13th. So they already was published last.
It was already published. Okay.
Yes, the
Correct.
6th.
Yes,
and
it's
then
open
it's going to
already.
be published again on the 13th. And the RFP is due on Wednesday, June 23rd. So I hope most likely at 11 o'clock. So most likely the July board meeting will have the proposal for you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. That was my question. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Liu. Moving on. Item number 7, discussion and possible action to award workers' compensation third-party administrator TPA services for year 2021, 2022. Dr. Easy.
Yes, and thank you, Dr. Valdez. We're going back again to Dr. Sorolla and also you still with us, right, Dr. Sorolla?
Yes, sir, I am. Mhm.
Okay, all right, very good. And so, Dr. Sorolla, I think you and Mr. Rivera have some information to share about this, right? Item.
Yes, if it's okay with the board, I'm not going to bring up a presentation. I know that you have within the packet, you have the backup on this particular item. Mr. Rivera, if you can chime in as well. I'm going to just present the basics, and then if there's any more detail, Mr. Rivera, you can chime in. We did do a request for proposal specifically for third-party administration on workers' compensation. The specific dates that it was published and the request for best and final offer and the actual opening of the proposal was are stated there. The dates are stated there. Mr. Rivera, if you can, do you have those dates in front of you? Those specific dates on the closing and when it was posted and all that? I know it's part of the report. I can.
I was on mute. Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Yes, the dates that was opened was or posted was on April 18th and April 25th, both Sundays. The proposals or the questions related to the RFP were accepted through Wednesday, April 28th, and we responded to all questions from potential vendors by Friday, April 30th, 2021. Our bid opening was on May 10th. We received one bid, which was by TriStar Risk Management, and we reviewed and ranked this proposal on May 24th.
Yes, sir. So as far as the information on the charging, Mr. Rivera, compared to the previous vendor, Claims Administrative Services, I think you and I discussed that this particular vendor is going to charge us an annual flat rate as opposed to a charge per claim, as was done with claims the previous vendor. The annual fee will be $57,500. It does increase approximately by $2,000 per year, and so that is the recommendation we're making, is that you award the RFP for TPA workers' compensation at TriStar.
Dr. Sarol, was that the only vendor that submitted?
It is, yes, sir. We did try to do our research and advertise to others, but we found that the only two really vendors that do work in the Valley are TriStar and Claims Administrative Services, and only TriStar submitted.
No problem.
Mr. Sorolla, did I hear you correctly? This is a new one? Is that the same one?
Different one.
It's a different
one, sir.
It's a different one, Fernando.
And this is what the recommendation from administration? Is that what you are recommending?
Yes, sir.
Well, this I move.
A second.
Okay, Mr. Colonel? Mr. Valdez?
Favor.
Mr. Reyna?
In favor.
Mrs. Watts? I also favor, motion carries. The time is, oh, I'm sorry, we gotta go into consent agenda.
When it consent, it goes fast.
Consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve consent agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mrs. Watts and David, you want a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Castillo?
Favor.
Mr. Colonel? Mr. Valdez?
In favor.
Mr. Reyna?
Favor.
And I also vote in favor, motion carries. We're gonna move on to governance, conservator monthly report for April 2021. Mrs. Reyes.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Aziz. April's monthly report, under the governance side, I just wanted to congratulate you that twice the district has made the LSG leaderboard. The first time was at 80, and this last time, which was just very recently, was at 85, and you're mastering the LSG program. But I would like to stress that I need for you to start focusing on student outcome goals. And then under the SIA required actions, those were the Weaver report items. there is one section here under the public information request. We do have a community member that is taking a lot of the time of district staff. And I don't know if anyone has actually sat down with this lady to sit down and try to see how we can bring down her requests so that staff is not spending so much time generating all of those requests. That is one of the items there that I have. Then under the financial, I just need for you to continue to get the health insurance updates, because we are going the other way. I mean, last year we did add to the fund balance in the health insurance, but now we're at 2.7 million deficit. I certainly hope it improves, and we need to be looking into ways of curtailing that cost. And under the academic, the district had excellent STAR instructional academies to prepare the students for the STAR test. And once you get the STAR test results, all of that will be used for progress monitoring this next school year. And one last thing, under the conservators' directives, Dr. Sorola's department is still researching software programs and hopes to bring a software program for board approval soon that will assist him for the applications process. Any questions?
Mr. Romero, I got a quick question.
Sure.
Do you know when Ms. McMahon's going to be coming down? I know that Fernando and Joe and Ms. Reina, I know they're not too familiar with the LSG program, and I know that the other board members, we've had taken some of the classes, but are we still going to continue with that program, or we're not? I guess that's the question I have.
Yes, as far as I know, you are continuing with the program.
Yes, and
Okay.
I think the delay, well, I mean.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm here. I'm Dr.
Okay,
McMahon.
Marcia, why are you missing in action? Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a flight, but I had issues with my flight, and there's no rental cars down in the valley. So,
No.
so
We got
thank
Lyft.
you for
We got taxis.
asking. Thank you for asking that question. I just want to say congratulations to you guys for being only one of 2 school districts in the state of Texas that is at Master's Focus for Lone Star Governance.
Thank you, Coach.
I mean,
Thank you,
that
Dr.
is an amazing feat. So yes, Dr. Castillo, I'm still working with doing the time management and that stuff, and making sure that you guys continue to move forward. I'm not really sure about how much I can discuss tonight because it's the conservator's report and not mine. But there are a couple of things, Dr. Valdez, I need to talk to you about. But I meant to be there. I'm sorry I could not be.
That's no problem, but I just wanted to ask that question.
Yes, and Marcia, now that I've got you here, I mean, I know it's the conservators, but just the other thing, has there been any update on TEA as far as the Lone Star Governance Part 2?
I am working with the head of TEA to move forward with that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Because I'm not gonna sit you through another 2-day training of everything that you've done already before. So I'm working with that. Thank you for asking that question.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Yes, any questions?
Okay.
Thank you. The time is 8:24, and we will now be moving into executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code sections 551, 071, 072, 073, 074, 075, 076, 082, 083, and 084.
What? Oh.
David, are you logging back into open session? Okay, go wait. Yeah, Terry, look out for Mr.
We good?
Don't worry about it, Mr. De La Rios.
Yeah, we're here. Let's go. Let's go.
The time is 8:58 and we are back in open session to take possible action on matters discussed in executive session. Item A, discussion of possible action to approve superintendent's recommendation of personnel, approval of recommendation for professionals to include hiring and termination recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Okay,
I second.
Mr. Colonel? Mr. Colonel?
In favor.
This?
Favor.
Mr. Reina?
In favor.
And Mrs. Watson, second, or made the motion, right? Second, so De Los Rios, how do you vote?
In favor.
I also vote in favor, motion carries. Next item, item number B, discussion and possible action to approve to consider CL 19-3816, Bina Torres versus Donna ISD to include discussion of compromise agreement.
A motion to approve as presented by legal.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, Mr. Colonel?
Favor.
Mr. De Los Rios, how do you vote?
Favor.
Okay, Mr. Valdez?
Favor.
Mr. Reina?
In favor.
And I also vote in favor, motion carries. Item C, discussion and possible action to approve to consider 17 CV 00363 Alejandro Gonzalez versus Donna ISD to include discussion of compromise agreement. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as discussed by legal.
Do I have a second? Okay, second by Ms. Watts. Mr. Colonel?
In favor.
Mr. De Los Rios?
In favor.
Mr. Valdez?
Favor.
Mr. Reina?
In favor.
You seconded, right, Ms. Watts? And I also vote in favor, motion carries. Discussion and possible action to approve pending or contemplated litigation, settlement matters, and or matters where the professional duty under state board requires private consultation with the school attorney. No action. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay. Mr. De Los Rios, you want a second? I think Mrs. Watts kind of got ahead of you there.
Second. Hey, man,
Okay,
she's
Miss-
quick.
Mr. Castillo. Mr. Castillo.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Reina, Mr. Colonel, Mr. Valdez,
Favor.
Mr. Reina,
In favor.
and I also vote in favor. Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.